This is the ancient and medieval history lesson for Thursday, the 27th of January, 2022. And we have talked about the Republic in freefall. Because this ancestor of the American Republic, this direct genetic lineal ancestor of ours, make sure you have your notes out, something to write on, something to write with, has some problems as a result of its victories in the Second Punic War and the wars after. Because they no longer have to worry about Carthage, but not just that. They get massive amounts of wealth and massive numbers of slaves from all of these wars. And the wealth is not going to spread equally through society. The richest of the rich get even further enriched. And the slaves put poor and middle-class Romans out of work. How can you have dignity and support your family and be a free and independent citizen if you are completely dependent on some rich guy giving you gifts?
Chickens?
You owe your life, you owe your family, you owe everything. You have no dignity anymore. You are a tool for that wealthy man to use. You are a client. He is your patron. In effect, you're not quite a slave, but you're not free either. This problem, the proletariat, becomes the central problem in Rome, as the super rich are also a problem. What to do? Well, two political parties develop, both led by wealthy people. One party is overtly about the interests of the wealthy. They're called the Optimates, the best and brightest. The other is the Populares, the People's Party. But both the People's Party and the Optimates are led by the rich. They're just led by rich people who have different ideas. So it's not like the people are standing. No, that's nonsense. You've got rich people who are the most popular of Populares because they're rich and they have a bunch of money and they give it to a bunch of poor people just like the Optimates do. Patron-client relationships. It's not about ideology. It's about money and power, obligation and loyalty. So, okay. There's a proposal made by a tribune of the plebs named Tiberius Gracchus. He's a populare. And what he argues is that to save Rome from the proletarians, because they can destroy Rome. You think Hannibal's army is dangerous? Imagine tens of thousands or more, maybe hundreds of thousands, of Romans, full Roman citizens, not slaves, who are capable of violence and who are completely desperate. Inside the city walls, in every neighborhood. These people, if they get angry enough, can burn the entire city down. And Rome is a giant fire trap. A giant fire trap. Everyone's afraid of fire. It's this jumble of wood and brick buildings. And you know what they have for firefighting? Buckets. So this is an existential threat. The Optimates and the Populares both realize it. But the Populares say the way to solve this is to put a maximum cap on the size of a latifundia, which is a plantation. And anything above that cap is to be divided and given to the proles, and the proles will pay back the loan for the land. You get the proles out of the city onto the land. They're no longer desperately clients of avaricious patrons. They're independent, free men again. They have dignity again. They support their families. All will be well. And the Optimates say, yeah, all will be well, and it's not a bad idea, except we earned that land. It's ours. We earned it lawfully. We earned it by our skill. We earned it over generations of time. Who is some popinjay politician to tell me that I have enough land? A government that can give you everything you need is a government that can take everything you have. A government that can take my land against my will and give it to another citizen because the government thinks it's a good idea is more tyrannical than any king. Because you can't say no to it. On that basis, the Optimates oppose the land reform ideas of Tiberius Gracchus. But The debate is getting incandescently hot. Both sides are intensifying their arguments. Nobody knows how the votes are going to go in the Senate. So one day, Tiberius Gracchus is speaking in the Forum, and in the midst of his speech, a group within the crowd that has managed to get close to the podium rushes the podium and rips him off the podium and beats him to death. Now, this isn't just homicide, the murder of a human being. That's bad. He is a tribune of the plebeians, acting in his official duty as a protector of the people. One of the things that is guaranteed by Roman law is that he is inviolate. It's not just an attack on Tiberius Gracchus, private individual, it's an attack on the state. To kill a tribune in the course of his political duties is a crime against the entire republic. This is the same logic that people use. If you have a murderer, that's bad. If you have a cop killer, that's worse. You know where to go. Line up. Okay, we continue after that evacuation drill. He's murdered. It's a crime against the state. It's a lot like when a cop killer comes along. A cop killer is more dangerous than a murderer because a cop killer isn't just attacking the man that's wearing the uniform. He's attacking what he represents, which is law and order. A person who's willing to attack a police officer is not going to have any hesitation about attacking a civilian. So traditionally, cop killers are pursued with an unusual intensity and vigor, not just because the police lost one of their own, but because a cop killer has attacked not just the individual, but the entire social contract. The cop killer has attacked us by attacking the person in uniform. So, Tiberius Gracchus is murdered as a man, he's murdered as a tribune, it's a crime against the state, but it's also a crime against the gods, because the patriotic gods of Rome guarantee the sanctity of the tribune. So this is an attack on everything that makes Rome special. And yet, nobody's punished. People see who did it. Nobody's punished. Because the courts are so corrupt. So, the land reform proposal dies until a few years later, his younger brother Gaius Gracchus takes up the struggle, and the same thing happens to him. And while this time a couple of the murderers are actually punished, they are the guys who did it. That's like blaming a bullet for killing someone. But shame on you, bullet! You're gonna take a life. Not me! I fly along according to the rules of ballistics and Newtonian physics. It's not my fault, but you're gonna do it. But it's not the bullet's fault. It's the person who aims the weapon and squeezes the trigger's fault. The senators on the Optimate side who ordered the death of the Gracchi are responsible, and none of them pay. So, from this point, the government of Rome and politics in Rome isn't just a matter of votes and speeches, it's a matter of murder, assassination. But that's not all. Gaius Marius, rises to power through the army and then blackmails his way to the most lucrative governorship in the Roman world. He goes in there a poor man. He comes out the wealthiest man in Rome. With that wealth, he wangles command of the Roman army sent to punish King Jugurtha of Numidia, which he does. He then goes back to Rome and saves Rome from the barbarians Cimbri and Teutons, and becomes the hero of Rome, the first man in Rome, and consul for life. And he does this second thing, defeating the barbarians, by building a new kind of Roman army. Not a Roman army composed of independent citizens who bring their own gear to battle, but no, a Roman army of proletarians. And these proles are given weapons, armor, training, best training in the army. It's a reorganized Roman army, so it's more effective in battle. It has the best equipment. They're given better pay. They're given death benefits for their families if they die, and retirement benefits if they live through a dozen years of service. That is a new kind of army. And the army, while it marches under the banner of Senatus Populusque Roma, is in fact Gaius Marius's clients. And they work for him because he pays the bills, he supports their family. What we've done is we've moved the proletariat from the city streets to the military camp. Sulla, his lieutenant, learns all this. And Sulla, who's an optimate, not a populare, wangles command of a Roman expedition eastward to spank Greek king Mithridates of Pontus. And Sulla himself also raises an army of his own proletarians. Pays them well, gives them good equipment, same type of army as Marius. After a few years of Marius being consul for life, Sulla comes back. And Sulla is not coming back to share power. He wants total power, just like Marius now has. And to hell with the Republic, these guys want to be king by any name. Sulla lays siege to Rome. Marius' army defends. At first, Marius is quite successful, but then he has a stroke, he becomes partially paralyzed, and he ends up dying. And the Marian army is defeated, and Rome is now in the hands of Sulla, who is made dictator for life. Dictator for life. Oh, think about that. Dictator can do anything, much more than a consul can, but the check on their power has always been they're only there for 6 months, and after their 6 months term is up, they can be sued if they go too far. But he doesn't have the end of a term. You think kings are powerful, dictators for life, much more so. Roman politics has become a matter not of assassination, nor of votes and speeches. It's a matter of civil war. Now, luckily for the world, Sulla gets a horrible skin condition that literally eats him from the outside in, and he dies quickly. Well, he dies slowly, as a man does, but he dies within a few years of becoming dictator for life. So now Rome's people and Senate have an opportunity. They can step up and say, enough of this. We were wrong in letting the Gracchus murders go unavenged. We were wrong to allow private armies to develop. We, the Senate of Rome, are going to take command again, and the people of Rome will rule through us, and we're going to have the Republic again, but that requires vision. The truth is, most people, when they're at a critical moment in their life or in history, don't understand that they are. They're afraid, they realize big things are afoot, they're making life and death choices, and a lot of people try to play it safe. They try to play it safe. And in playing it safe, they miss opportunities. I don't know what I would have done at that time because I wasn't there. I hope that if a moment like that comes in our time, I do the right thing. So, with whatever influence I have. The Senate and people of Rome do not step up. Instead, we get a new word, triumvirate. Triumvirate. The first triumvirate is, the word triumvirate means the rule of three. Imagine a risk game where you start out with 7 players. That's a bloodbath right there. So everyone's fighting from the first or second turn. And 3 of the players have made an alliance, a secret alliance. And within an hour of play, the only players left are those 3 players. Okay, so they've won. Their alliance has won. That's a triumvirate. How many times does the game stop there? We've got a third of the world. Let's split it and go eat some burgers. No! You then engage in the dance of backstabbery and chicanery and double dealing, and you try to make a 2-on-1 attack, and when there's only 2, then they fight and fight until there is only 1. Why? Because the game ain't called compromise, it's called risk. The point is to win. So alliances are temporary things on the road to ultimate victory. So this triumvirate system is going to be 3 guys who cooperate in ruling Rome until they don't need the other 2. All of this is about conferring legitimacy, the moral right to rule. You know, winning a civil war, and Sulla found this. Sulla was not popular, but he had an army. And so he basically bullied Rome into giving him total power. Marius wasn't particularly popular either after a while. The triumvirs learned from the failures of Marius and Sulla that they need to find a way to build genuine popularity so that in the eyes of the people, their rule will be legitimate, that they will have the moral right to rule. And that means being very good for the country and for the people. So, the first of these triumvirs is a guy named Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, which in English is Pompey the Great. You can just write Pompey the Great, because that's how he's called in English, Pompey the Great. Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus. Now, the word Magnus means the Great. Pompey starts out his triumvir career young. He's in his 20s or 30s. Golden-haired guy, very handsome, and what he does is he looks at the Roman world and he sees an annoying problem. And the problem is piracy. Rome dominates the Western Mediterranean. And it also is increasingly dominating the Eastern Mediterranean, the Adriatic Sea, the Aegean Sea, and even into the Black Sea and Red Sea areas. Rome is dominant. And Rome is relying on trade, grain ships and things like that. But Rome's focus is on land. And when you don't police a certain area, criminals will abound. At sea, these raiders are called pirates. And what the pirates do is they prey upon trade. And maybe you can try to do a deal with pirates and pay them off. And maybe they'll stay paid off, and maybe they won't, because, yar, it's not really a code. It's more like guidelines. Pirates don't always keep their agreements. Who would think? They're rapists, murderers, criminals, and arsonists. You can't trust them to keep their word, because they're pirates. So, this is a problem. It's a problem, by the way, today. The British were very good at sweeping piracy from the seas. The French actually helped with that, too. So from the late 1600s on through the 1700s, piracy is on the decline because France's Navy and Britain's Royal Navy basically wipes it out. But after World War II, we undermine the British Empire and replace the British as the leader of the world and the policeman of the world. But American Navy, we have the Russians to worry about, we've got the Chinese to worry about now, and nobody has officially said we're the policemen of the world. The British didn't need an invitation, they just did it. We haven't. With the result that, I've got to reach past you and between you two ladies, so excuse me. Most of the world's trade goes through the Red Sea. Suez Canal allows transit from the Atlantic, the Mediterranean, across the Suez Canal, the Red Sea, the Gulf of Aden, and out into the Indian Ocean. Most of the world's trade flows through that area. Now, this pointy area of Africa is called the Horn of Africa, and it's Somalia. We have allowed the Somalis with assault rifles in open boats called dhows. They're basically big rowboats with motors attached, to go putt-putt-putting and reeve trade. We've let them do it. And there's another choke point. I got to do this again. At the Malay Barrier, the islands of Malaysia and Indonesia, between Vietnam and Australia, between the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean, there are Malay pirates and Indonesian pirates in those waters. And they use small motorboats too, and armed guys, and the heaviest things they usually have are machine guns. Now, in their wisdom, the people who run global maritime trade have said, no, merchant vessels shouldn't be armed. So, you've got ridiculous moments, like about 5 years ago. A liner, an ocean passenger liner, a cruise ship basically, was steaming through the Malay Barrier, and dozens of little motorboats with armed men start chasing it. The captain orders flank speed, and it's moving around 30, 35 knots, trying to get away from the motorboats, who are faster, but in rough seas, they can't go as fast as the cruise ship. And this chase lasts 12 hours. It's ridiculous. If we allowed our merchant ships to be armed with Ma Deuces, that's 50 caliber machine guns, or a few 20 millimeter cannons, the Somali pirates, we're going to get you. Really? Pachoom, pachoom, pachoom. We're going to drown and be eaten by sharks. But we don't do that, because merchant ships shouldn't be armed. The U.S. Navy has not prioritized this. Nobody else has prioritized this. So piracy today is actually worse than it's been since the 1600s. When you, what's a good way of putting it? Defund the police. When you stop allowing the forces necessary to police an area to do their job, criminals take their place. So Pompey is going to deal with the piracy problem. What he's going to do is he is going to refurbish actually, Rome's navy. And he's going to put real resources in it, and he's going to staff it with his proletarians, because he's their patron, they're his clients. And with this battle fleet, he scours from the Straits of Gibraltar to the coast of Israel, the entire Mediterranean Sea of piracy. It's a heroic campaign. It benefits everyone in the Greco-Roman world. It's a good job. And because of that, the Senate of Rome grants him the title Magnus, which means the Great. And he gets the title of Magnus very young. But that's not all. Not only does he sweep piracy from the waves, he also conquers the rest of the East, including the Israelites, including the Jews. When he marches into Israel, it's after the Maccabees have thrown out the Greeks. And the Jews figure they can beat the Romans too. They're wrong. No, they don't beat the Romans. Pompey wants to show the Jews who's boss. So he's going to do something almost Babylonian with its religious significance. Pompey takes his horse and his men into the great temple of Judaism. He goes into the outer court of the Gentiles, which everyone is allowed to, even him, a Roman, uncircumcised and pagan worshipping. Anyone can go to the court of the Gentiles. And he rides his horse with his men into the court of the women, which is where only Jewish people, men and women, are allowed to go. He then goes to the court of the men, where only Jewish men are allowed to go. He then goes to the court of the priests, where only Jewish male priests are allowed to go. And the priests and the other Jewish leaders have been brought here to witness this. And then he goes to the Holy of Holies, which is a chamber that is walled off and that is surrounded by a silken barrier. And only the chief priest of the Sanhedrin, the high priest of the Jewish religion, is allowed to go into the Holy of Holies once a year. Pompey takes his sword, slices open the silk barrier, brings his horse inside, and has his horse urinate and defecate in the Holy of Holies. He then does the same thing. Now, why does he do this rather disgusting thing? Because it's sacrilege. He is showing the Jews that Yahweh can't stop him. He's not expecting the Jews to start worshiping Jupiter, Optimus Maximus, or anything like that. But he knows that the heart of the Jewish people isn't their government, it's their religion. And by demonstrating his power to violate and desecrate the holiest of holies in the Jewish temple, he makes it clear, hey Jews, there's a heel that's going to be pressing down on your neck. That's my heel. That's Rome's heel. You are now subjects of the Roman Empire. And it does make the point. So Pompey is the first triumvirate. Wipes out the pirates, conquers the East. The second triumvirate is an unlikely fellow named Marcus Licinius Crassus. Marcus Licinius Crassus is, well, he's a moneybags. He's a big, florid-faced, red-faced guy, a little overweight. And he's the moneybags of the first triumvirate. What he is going to do, he's going to make his money in real estate. Here's how he does it. He does it with the fire brigades. Now, when I hear the term fire brigade, I picture a bunch of Keystone cops, sort of silly guys trying to fight fires with a manual pump. It's sad. The truth is, the Romans would love to have a manual pump. Instead, they have buckets. Pompey has guys, big guys, thuggy guys, guys that like bullying other people. They've fulfilled their potential in life. They found a job as a professional bully. They love Crassus because he's given them that job. And this is the way the mafia still works today. So imagine you're a shopkeeper in a neighborhood, and you're a potter. You're a potter. Not Harry, though. You are a potter, and three guys walk into your shop. They're big, muscular, no necks. Hey, want to see the shopkeep? Shopkeep comes out. I'm the shopkeep. What can I do for you? You got a really nice place here. Picks up a plate or teacup or something. It'd be a shame if anything bad happened to it. Now, at that point, maybe he'll drop the pottery and have it shredded, or he'll carefully put it back. But the point is made. These guys right now can tear this shop apart, and there's nothing the shopkeeper can do about it. It'd be a shame if anything bad happened. If I was the owner of this place, I'd make absolutely sure I had as much protection as I could. You know, it's lucky for you that we're here, because we're collecting for the fire brigades. What we'd like is 5% of your weekly take every week. Minimum figure. What do you say? What are these guys really threatening to do? They're threatening to burn the place down. When you buy protection, you're not buying protection from God or an act of God or the elements or anything like that. You're buying protection. If I sell you protection, you're buying protection from me. The fire brigades don't put out fires. Well, they do, kind of. The fire brigades start fires for people who don't pay. So Crassus makes his money extorting profit from businesses and landowners throughout the city of Rome. But there are some places that he just wants. And he won't sell protection, or if he does, he won't honor it. If Crassus wants his hilltop or a street corner or whatever, whoops, fire will start. And it will burn the place to the ground. Nothing else, just that area. And then Crassus will buy the ashy remains. And he'll put up luxury houses or a new villa or building or whatever. He'll make money. Excuse me. He'll make money. So Crassus becomes the wealthiest man in Rome of his time. But that's not glorious. Shut the shades and turn off the fan. Please turn off the lights. A gladiator leads a rebellion against Rome near Mount Vesuvius, near Naples, a place called Capua. A slave called Spartacus takes up the sword. Now, gladiators don't make great warriors because gladiators are not taught to kill effectively; they're taught to kill dramatically, big motions, things that people in the lousy seats can see. And they're not trained to fight with Roman military weapons. You've got a guy with a net and a trident, and you've got a guy with a little tiny shield and a little tiny sword. Those are the classic types of gladiators. One's called the Thracian. And they fight and they die for the funeral games and for the entertainment of the crowd. Well, for whatever reason, Spartacus, we don't know who he is. He may have been a nobody. He may have been a former Roman soldier. There are legends on all sides. We don't know. But Spartacus leads a rebellion in a gladiator school, and then he does something weird. Normally, gladiators or any kind of escaped slave tries to get away and go home. Spartacus's gladiators go to other gladiator schools and free them all, and creates a new gladiator army. And he starts freeing slaves all over Magna Graecia, all over southern Italy. Crassus, Marcus Licinius Crassus, is going to take on Spartacus. Now, I know you saw parts of this with Mr. Williams in 8th grade, but I'm going to show you the introduction of Marcus Licinius Crassus in the movie Spartacus. But in this case, he's played by tall, thin, austere Sir Laurence Olivier, greatest Shakespearean actor of his time. They also include a statue of Gracchus. Gracchus doesn't live during the time of Crassus. Gracchus is dead over 50 years by the time Crassus comes along. But it's a movie. And you'll get a sense of some things about Crassus from this scene.